Hello, everyone. Glad to see you all here, especially those of you who are dialing in from far away places. Uh, Tonight, I'm going to do the same meditation in the beginning that I've been doing towards the end. More and more, I think we are in need of doing this meditation. I'm revisiting some sutras. And what are supposed to be the words of the Buddha. I mean, even Buddhists, hardcore Buddhists who have realizations do not necessarily say that these are like verbatim words of the Buddha, but they are the sentiments of the Buddha, you could say. And the openness of all Buddhists towards what are said to be the words of the Buddha is such that should you accept it just because someone said that's the word of the Buddha? And unfortunately for Buddhists, the Buddha himself gave the criterion as to what to do. And we should always rely, there's always something for us to rely on. And what we need to rely on, if you're not enlightened, you don't have direct knowledge about truths, then it's best for us to go through a process of things. Yes, this person is reliable. I'll take his words, but with a measure of discrimination. Perhaps this person may be right along this way, but not entirely right about everything that is being said. So we have to take that into consideration. It's not necessarily so that just because someone is telling you something and then you are investigating what they're saying, looking for where is it really truth and Lucy, where there might be something missing. It's not like you're disrespecting the person, but rather what you're doing, you're honoring truth. And that's the main thing that we should maintain, to honor truth, because that's what the whole endeavor is about in the first place. The reason that you are believing this person, because this person seems to have some authority, is because deep inside we are believing I am honoring truth by accepting what this person said because I think it's the truth. But if you really want to honor truth, the truth should not be something that is ashamed or that is afraid of us investigating it. Okay? The truth should always invite investigation. And that's why I say the truth is like a diva. It always wants to be seen, always wants to be examined. If what you is being presented to you as truth and it is afraid of you examining it, then there's something fishy there. There's something for you to be that's something very suspect. Okay, and the reason that I'm going to that is so that's okay. So it's like introduction. Why am I quoting the Buddha? Okay, so it seems to be for some reason or another, it seems to be something that after reading it or through reading it upon some sort of investigation, it seems to make sense. It seems to make sense. It seems to make sense. So this is something I can share. And the sutra that I'm reading, the Buddha is laying out sort of like a set of stages where one arrives at, yes, this is ultimate truth. This is something that I can say I know. This is something that I can say I see. This is something that I can now transmit to someone else. Okay, and it begins, strangely enough, with something that, if we're not careful, if we say that's the only thing that will make us make the statement, this is true, we have to be very careful. We have to build on these things until we arrive at what we can say, now I know it. There's no doubt about it, because constantly it's not shying away from me investigating it. How did the Buddha arrive at enlightenment? The state of enlightenment that he achieved wasn't afraid of him investigating it. And that's what he did. Is this enlightenment? Have I reached the place of true peace? This experience that I'm having, is it real peace? And that state allowed him to investigate it. to dive into it further, to look at all the different uh, uh, aspects, all the different layers of the experience. So you can say, oh yes, I've looked at all the different layers of this, and then everywhere I looked, it's peace. And even then he said, if it is not fully peace, here I am presenting it to you. You do the same thing that I did. Perhaps I missed something that you will discover. And with that, why we should be always be open to truth. And that means until we reach a certain experience of direct experience, we should always be open that maybe I'm not entirely right. Maybe I'm not entirely right. Okay. Just hold that maybe. Okay. All right. So the peace that we are seeking, the peace that we want, um, it's not complicated because it is complicated, but rather the unraveling of the state of non-peace has been made complicated. And that's what we have to unravel. That's where the complication comes in, because this peace itself is extremely simple. It is so simple that we miss it. And because we keep missing it, it seems like it's complicated, but rather it is the entanglement that is complicated. Okay. So without holding you uh, back too much for too long, let's begin our meditation. Mm. Form the intention that you're going to meditate. Allow the understanding of what meditation is, what you might call the real meditation, the real state of meditation, our, our true understanding of it. Allow that to come to the surface. That kind of understanding of it that we cannot quite fully yet uh, described with words, but we have a sense of being able to, a sense of touching it. So bring yourself to that sense of making contact with it, no matter how vague it may be, no matter how abstract it may be, but there's a sense of touching it. Bring your attention to that. And as you bring your attention to it, allow your body now to respond to this call to enter a meditative state. And feel the intelligence in the body responding in a way that is cooperative. Your body knows what the meditation state is, and it wants to go in there and it wants to cooperate. Allow it to cooperate. Through the body, you're already beginning to touch elements of the meditative state. Meditative state, the sense of calm, beginning to feel it in the body. Begin to feel this kind of slight pleasantness arising in the body. That's us already touching, beginning to make contact with the meditative state. We are like on the periphery, and the rays that are expanding, they're starting to touch us. And as you feel the early signs arising within the body itself, welcome them, rejoice in their presence. Allow that intelligence to guide you if you need to make adjustments, wherever you may need to make adjustments. Make them consciously, make them deliberately, knowing that it is that intelligence within the body itself guiding us. Now consider that right now we are at the threshold of the space of the meditation itself. We are feeling the radiating warmth, the radiating calmness, the radiating pleasantness, and we're starting to slightly touch it because we are at the threshold, right at the door. And with the understanding of what this is, what we can achieve within that space, we make a deliberate commitment to enter consciously, deliberately. And the way we sort of sign that commitment, the way we seal that commitment is with a deep breath. So get ready to seal the commitment to enter fully. So gently, fully through the nose, breathe in. And through the mouth, breathe out. And as you breathe out through the mouth, let go. Feel the letting go in the body. Feel the letting go in the breath. Feel the letting go energetically. Feel the letting go in the mind. Keep letting go. Keep letting go. And as you continue to let go, notice the signs enhancing. Notice the signs of calming, the signs of pleasantness enhancing in the body. Notice the signs of calming and pleasantness appearing and enhancing in the breath itself. Let the breath go. Leave the breath in its own rhythm. And because of awareness being drawn towards calm in the body, in the breath, we can sort of now begin to have a equally palpable sense of a calmness and a pleasantness that is now in the realm of the mind. Bring attention to it, to whatever measure, to whatever degree that they are present. And begin to feel in the body itself a sense of entering, having entered a different space. Hold a sense of curiosity, a sense of openness, accepting, not grasping, not rejecting. And gently come rest your attention on the breath. As you breathe in, simply know you are breathing in. As you breathe out, simply know you are breathing out, continuously noticing the signs, continuously sort of surrendering to the signs, not directing what the experience should be, not directing what the experience should not be. Notice the signs enhancing in the body, in the breath, and especially the mind with the new signs of clarity and radiance through the very inner sensations, inner sense appearances, inner sound, inner visions, inner tactile sensations, and other kinds of inner sensations. Immediately acknowledge them. It means I have gone deeper into the meditative state. My mind is right now clearer than it was before. It is now brighter than it was before. Notice the depth of the calm. Notice the new depth of the pleasantness. Welcome them. Rejoice in their presence. And let us stabilize with threefold breath, just like before. Through the nose, gently, fully breathe in, staying connected to the whichever sign is strongest for you. Staying connected to whichever sign is strongest. Now just let go as you breathe out through the mouth. If it was the sound, perhaps the sound is louder, stay with it. As you allow the breath to come back naturally, stay with that new, louder sound or the new, more vivid image or vision or color or sensation in the body or the sense of peace or the sense of pleasantness. And you don't have to cling to it. If something else comes that is of the sign that is stronger, you can go towards it. Allow it to come to the surface. Let it take you to the new depth. Staying with that, again through the nose, gently, fully breathe in. And again, get ready to dive. Let go. Feel it happening in the body, feel it happening in the mind, feel it happening in the breath, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. Notice the new depth, stay in it. Stay in that new depth. Keep hearing that louder sound, keep seeing those images, the crispier. Keep feeling that sensation. And while staying there for the third time, another full breath through the nose, gently, fully breathe in. And again, drop. And let the breath return by itself. Stay in the depth. While we are now in this new space, sense us in your own personal space, forming a circle. And in our midst, at the level of our eyebrows, as we focus in that space in front of us, begin to feel that within us that calls us to our better selves, to our better expressions, potential, however we can sense it, even if it is at the moment feels abstract. Stay connected to however it is appearing to us. And as you begin to feel a sensation in the forehead, now imagine or sense a bright, luminous presence in our very center. A sort of like a coalesce of all our highest attributes, our core values, shining brightly. I have a sense of being deeply connected to it. Actually see a ray of light connecting us from our hearts to the very center of that central appearance, central presence. Our individuality is contributing to its strength, and its strength, which is us, is contributing to our individuality. One need not erase the other for the other to exist, because the real truth is a mystery that is beyond both and does not exclude either one. And with that sense of being connected, in the same way that we feel the right hand immediately takes care of the left hand without any sense of making a sacrifice, but rather just taking care of us. In the same way, begin to feel that for each other. As soon as one of us needs any kind of assistance, immediately feel a sense of into an instinct wanting to take care of that other. the same way our right hand would take care of its left hand. And with that sense of us going stronger and stronger, have a deep sense of respect for that us, a deep sense of trust in that us, a deep sense of gratitude to that us. Keep letting go. Keep going deeper into the peace, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the clarity, the radiance, which means perhaps the inner sensations are becoming clearer, brighter, more and more vivid, more and more distinct, stronger, louder. Keep allowing that to take place. Notice the energetic experience taking place. Do not grasp, do not reject. And as we become strongly connected to that sense of I, that sense of us, that bright presence in the center becomes brighter and brighter, and it begins to expand. As it expands, it dissolves into itself the sense of us and expands our sense of individuality, being afraid of our individuality being smothered. Slowly, that fear goes away until we are completely enveloped, completely dissolved into that glowing presence. And what we were or may have been hesitant about, oh, my individuality would go away. But somehow, in this miraculous way, we are feeling all of us, as the right hand doesn't feel its individuality has been erased because it's part of an us that includes the left hand. It continues to expand. And as it continues to expand more and more, the environment becomes part of that us. And we feel as connected to everything that is being touched by this ever expanding light, ever expanding presence, touching everything with understanding, with love, with compassionate concern, till your entire home, along with everyone in it, is in that orb of light, that presence. It continues to expand until the entire city is dissolved into that presence, us. It continues to expand the entire nation. Let's spend a few moments, a few seconds holding on to that. The entire nation is us. And it's not just the humans, but it's all life, in all the ways that life manifests, from the mountains, the oceans, the rivers, all bodies of water, the sky, the grass, the trees. It's all us. And let that continue to expand until the entire earth is engulfed into that bright presence. And just stay with that, understanding that everyone, every corner of the earth has been sort of subsumed, dissolved into us. And whatever comes to mind, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing absolutely right with it. Just be aware and let it be dissolved to us. And keeping that understanding of us, trying to stay connected to that sense of us. Like, okay, we've learned our lesson, we know the truth. Slowly, that big orb of bright presence begins to shrink. And as it shrinks, whatever it touched, it leaves like a dust of light, a dust of that us with it until it continues to shrink back to that bright presence in the center of our circle. And we still feel that sense of connection, that sense of us that we felt when we were completely dissolved into that bright presence, and feel connected to each other through authentic, compassionate concerns, at least a genuine wish for understanding each other. And getting ready now to make our contribution to the us, the contribution that the individual makes to the us. Through that ray of light connecting us to that bright presence, now that bright presence dissolves or it becomes very bright and it becomes individual rays of light for each one, for each person, taking the essence of us into each one of us. And there is this understanding, taking care of this individual is part of taking care of all of us. Taking care of all of us is part and intricately connected to taking care of this individual. Get ready to arise from the meditation with the intention to arise. Take a nice deep breath through the nose, gently, fully. Hear, feel, take the breath. Through the nose, through the mouth, breathe out. Feel it, hear it. And let your awareness now deliberately, consciously connect with your immediate surroundings by being aware of the temperature again, the feel of the clothing on you, being aware of the different sounds in your environment, being aware of the different colors, the different shapes, the lights, the shadows. Okay, thank you for doing this with us. There are some mornings where I wake up and I don't feel so well in terms of, what you might call energetically speaking, emotionally vibrant. You might call it depressed. And it's not because of I heard some news or something like that, and therefore I am depressed because I'm contemplating, mulling over this, constantly bringing back to my mind this sad state. But I just wake up, and that's how I wake up. And on certain days, when I wake up like that, somehow I'm able to, with my will, decide, ha, I don't like this state. I'm going to be happy now. And somehow I'm able to make myself happy, just like that. How I do it, I have no idea. But because I have no idea how I do it, because some days I try to do it and it doesn't work. I'm feeling this sense of sadness. And I say, okay, now let me do it now. Let me just make myself happy. And no, it doesn't work. So what is it about those days when it seems like I'm able to say, okay, be happy, and I'm happy. And yet some other days I tell myself, be happy. I'm not able to make myself happy. And it's not because, and like I said, it's not because of some circumstance that's happening around me. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'm able to notice, like when I am in that sort of down state, it doesn't matter what's going on around me. Everything is being received as though it is a cause for the state that I find myself in. Doesn't matter what I'm looking at, doesn't matter what I'm listening to. It is something, it seems to be a cause strengthening the state that I'm in. And those moments when I'm able to directly experience, when I make that somewhat willful decision, okay, I don't want to be this, I don't want this state anymore. I will myself to be happy. And strangely enough, those very same stimuli that I was a moment ago saying, experiencing as causing me to be down, suddenly they become a means for me to now be happy. That's a very strange thing. That's something about the nature of reality that is very, very weird. That something that was a moment ago seems to be the thing that's causing me to be unhappy or to be down. And of course, the natural instinct that we have when we encounter something that is seemingly causing us harm or seemingly causing us to be in a state where we don't want to be, the natural thing to do is to move away from it. And yet, without moving away from this thing that seems to be the cause of the state that I'm in, and somehow by sort of changing something in me, what I would say, what seems to be the same thing that I was experiencing before is now giving me a different experience. And sometimes when I'm able to make that switch, it's not so much that the thing that was seemingly causing me to be unhappy or seemingly to be down is now seemingly causing me to be happy. It's just that it doesn't have that effect on me anymore. It just doesn't have that effect on me. It's not almost as if I'm witnessing it, but it's not determining whether I am down or whether I am up, whether I am vibrant, whether I am happy, whether I'm energized. So, and it's the same thing with peace and those other words in the email: striving, strife. These are experiences that we have. And it seems that we are having them in a world, like the email said, where very normal things are happening, very everyday things are happening. Yes, there was this incredible, awful thing happening in the world, and then the news of it really struck us. And the news struck us in such a way it seemed like it wants to bring us down. And yet, in that same in the same world, in the same universe, we are able to enjoy breakfast. In the same world, in the same universe, our cat purring seems to be making us feel good. And there, unfortunately, there are times when we are so down, the same purring of the cat seems to be annoying. So these direct experiences are telling us something. It's telling us something right in the to our faces. There's wisdom to be extracted from these experiences. And the way to extract wisdom from these experiences is not to project onto the experience our conclusion of what it should be. Yes, we should, like I said in the very beginning, when we hear something, when we receive something, there should be some sort of examination taking place. And examination doesn't necessarily mean the way we understand examination, like A plus A or B plus B, things like that. So in some way where we are studying the experience, we are allowing the experience to present itself in the different facets that is presenting itself, that it is being experienced. And rather than draw a conclusion on top of it, but rather let the experience itself conclude itself to us. So in that experience where yesterday the cat purring was the most wonderful thing ever, and because I'm down, the cat purring becomes a cause of agitation, a cause of strife. I'm no longer at peace. And yesterday, hearing the cat purr made me feel very peaceful. And I'm not going to go in trying to figure out where is the peace coming from. That's sort of I'm going to dare to say it. That's sort of juvenile. Why am I saying sort of juvenile to say that? Because there is not something that you can point to that you say, oh, that's where the peace is coming from. There is an experience of peace. And there is also an experience of striving, conflict. Where is it coming from? When we ask that question, where is it coming from? What in us is asking that question? That's what we have to be careful with. What in us is asking that question? Perhaps there's a conclusion that we already drawn that we are seeking to validate when we are asking that question. Are we really wanting to know, or are we simply seeking to validate something else? Rather than looking beyond the experience for where is this peace coming from, look at the peace that you're experiencing. When you are experiencing the peace itself, what is actually taking place that we say that's peace? What is taking place? What is the experience that is taking place? And now I'm going to go into a direction where it seems like I'm going to go into dogma, but I'm not going to dogma. But it seems like it's going to seem like I'm going into dogma, okay? But just look at the peace. I'm imagining peace. What is present in the experience of peace? For one thing, you can say, what is not present, that is perhaps something that we can more or less sort of direct our attention to become aware of. What is not present in the experience of peace? What is not present? Perhaps peace is not something that is necessarily caused, but rather a state that naturally arises when certain things are absent. That's what I mean by to ask what causes peace might be juvenile. because what is asking the question is the same thing that thought, the cat purring is making me agitated. And then the same one that says, the cat purring is making me peaceful. That is what's that may be what is asking the question. Oh, if it's not the cat that's making me peaceful, if it is the cat that's made me agitated, if that part that was convinced that it was the cat that was in either case, that part is now looking for something else other than the experience itself to answer the question for us. Then we are no longer in the experience, we are out of the experience. We are looking for something other than the experience to explain the experience. So when we are experiencing, and there are moments that we actually experience peace, rather than ask question, where is it coming from? Just look at it. What is going on? What is absent in the experience that makes it peace? What is present in the experience that makes it peace? And that will give you the answer without having to be distracted from the experience, looking for some answer outside of the experience. And we can come up with extremely beautiful answers. And interestingly enough, in that sutra, where the Buddha begins with, upon seeing, and we get some sort of validation with what we are seeing, with that validation comes a kind of faith, a kind of conviction. And this is where we have to be careful. When we take the faith to be, that's it, that's all we need, we don't need anything else, that faith, which is a good thing, may lead to something else. It may lead to where something that is not really for our own good, we have faith that it is for our good. Something that may be harming us, where we are experiencing an unwanted experience, because we have faith in it, not really having allowed it to tell us what it is, but we just have this faith that we put on top of it, and we continue to endure what we need to endure. But faith, if we take faith to be, that's it, that's all we need. But faith can also lead us to really know what's going on if we allow it to be like a guide, not the authority, but rather a guide. In the same way, our reasoning is a guide, not an authority. In the same way, when we believe someone, when we have what you might call a natural liking, a natural inclination for something, what it seems to be natural, if we make that a guide rather than an authority, if we make it a guide, then it can lead us to peace. It can lead us to understanding. It leads us to truth. Even sometimes we can get caught up. It seems like we are reasoning. It seems like we are pondering different views, but we are caught in that just pondering. We are attached to the pondering. And that attachment to the pondering becomes a hindrance rather than a guide to help us get to truth. So these things are wonderful when they are guides, faith, listening to someone that you have a sense that they have some authority in what they're saying. Listening to our beautiful mind, reasoning, pondering different views. But there should be guide, not authorities. Because we know there are individuals that we have encountered, that you have encountered, who are convinced that their reasoning led them to a conclusion that's it, and there's nothing uh, that can undo it. They believe that it is the absolute truth. They are absolutely convinced that there is nothing else other than this as truth. And they did their reasoning. They did their pondering, it seems like. So that's what we have to be very careful. Peace is not collecting things and eventually adding them together to make some sort of chemical reaction, and then we have peace. But rather, it is a returning. The reason that when we are not experiencing peace, you can say we have strayed away from something. We have accumulated a bunch of things. Imagine peace like an empty room filled with potential. When that room is filled with junk, that's when we are no longer able to see the space itself. Always is the junk, all the stuff that we've accumulated. And we relate to these different things that have accumulated within the space in such a way, expecting them to be the peace that was there naturally. And that's when we are convinced I have to be over there in order for me to find peace. I have to get that thing in order for me to find peace. The world has to become this way in order for me to find peace. Unfortunately, there's good news and there's bad news. What's the good news? The peace that we seek is not something that is dependent on your environment, but that can be a relative experience of peace. Like you could say, right now, where you are right now, there is, relatively speaking, peace because there is no striving in the space where you are right here at this very moment. You're not in the middle of a war zone. So that's a relative peace. Okay. Then there is the so that's good news in a sense of even that condition of experiencing this appearing truth is something that is not entirely dependent. That is, uh, it's not something that is caused by having collected things, but there is the appearance of things. There is the appearance of peace, and that's a bit complicated. Let me uncomplicate it. Because we have within us the propensity at that moment, because they are the absence of the things that cause striving, the absence of peace, the environment is experienced as a peaceful environment. It's not necessarily the things that are present in the environment that is causing the peace, but rather a condition of certain things which are absent naturally allows for the peace to be experienced, to be touched, to be contacted. So that's the good news, which means it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, you can experience peace. I'm not talking about necessarily a selfish kind of peace where you directly see something is happening over there and you say, oh, I don't care about it because I don't want my peace to be disturbed. Okay. And we'll get back to that a little bit later. Now, here's the bad news. The world is not going to change and become peaceful and for us to experience, and then we finally experience peace. And by the world, I'm not talking about just the planet Earth or our age or our era. No, the universe, the world is not going to suddenly become peaceful and then we have peace. Just like the experience I had with the cat. One day, the very sound of the cat is something very peaceful, and some other days, the sound of the cat is something that is not peaceful. The thing is, and this is where it becomes sort of new agey kind of thing. The power to experience peace is within us. It is not up to the world to become peaceful in order for us to experience peace. Do you think that someone who is fully awakened, a Buddha, would come to this world in the condition that it is, and somehow the Buddha would be not in peace? That the peace of the Buddha would be disturbed because the world is disturbed, appearing to be disturbed? And I don't want to sound uh, like a mind only kind of thing, that when your mind is at peace, then therefore there is peace. It is uh, in, interconnection is there always. Okay. And you've experienced this where if you're not at peace in your mind, it doesn't matter what's going on, what's happening around you feels chaotic. And there are times when you feel this, when you have an experience of peace within, it doesn't matter what's happening in the world around you, it doesn't phase you. It doesn't disturb your peace. When we allow what the appearance of things outside us to determine when we are peaceful, when we are at peace, then we've entangled ourselves into an endless web of misery. Then we will never know peace. We will never experience peace. Only once in a while we will taste it, and it will be something that is always elusive. We will become very frustrated that we were not able to experience it, because we have convinced ourselves that that which we need to manipulate for us to experience peace is not cooperating. It doesn't want to cooperate in order for us to experience peace. The peace, what is peace? Peace is when your mind is no longer subject to anger, what we call stupid anger. Not that you shouldn't have a sense of concern for injustice, but when your concern is mixed with the intention to harm, just for the sake of harming, that kind of anger. When our mind is filled with the junk of attachment, convinced that somehow by accumulating, by grasping, by holding, somehow we will get peace, somehow we will get happiness. That attitude, that striving, even if you have nothing, but the mind is obsessed with grasping to be happy. Well, as long as that is present in the mind, we will not experience the natural peace that is there. As long as we keep running away from what is directly an experience, we are superimposing on the experience something else, drawing conclusions based on fantasies rather than allowing the experience, whatever it is, to be experienced as it is. The presence of this junk will make us never ever be able to experience peace. But when we are able to let go of these And if there is, and the only reason that we have them, the only reason that we are holding onto them is the conviction that somehow they will bring us peace. We filled the space of peace with junk, with conclusions, with biases, thinking that these things will bring us peace, when the peace is simply remove those things and peace was already there, was always there. It's not something to be made. It's not something to be constructed. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. If peace was something that was dependent on being constructed, we have to continuously, for the rest of existence, keep putting those things together. Whenever they break, you have to get some new ones. This will be an endless striving. But when we are able to remove all the junk and allow the space of peace to naturally be experienced, then it doesn't matter where we are, that peace will always be with us. And doesn't mean that because we are experiencing peace within, that when we are in the middle of a conflict, somehow we are not able to see the conflict. Because of the peace that we are able to experience, because of the peace that we're able to bring into the event, to the experience, to the conflict, we are one, providing an actual taste to those, to the conflict itself, the possibility of peace. And we are also bringing clarity where the two sides or the three sides or however many sides that are in conflict, they're so caught up in their myopic views, they're not able to see the very peace that they're seeking. They're blinded by their own convictions, their wrong sets of faith and convictions. And because of the junk that has filled their natural peace, they're not able to see it. But when we are no longer not allowing our experience of peace to be dependent on what is going on around us, then we bring that peace into that conflict and we become capable of helping those around to become at least, if not detached, but we bring healing into the space. So the disease that they have of being attached to their conclusions born from their reasoning, born from their authoritative faith, we bring them a taste of peace. And because we bring that taste of peace that they cannot deny, then they can listen. Because that is part of the process also, to listen. When we're not able to listen, we cannot get to truth. We cannot get to wherever it is that we need to get to. When the opposition is speaking, we don't hear them. We are only listening for clues to prove, to validate that's why we are right. That's why they're wrong. And that's what the other side is doing also. And because of this constant striving, constant conflict, they're not able to have any experience of peace that is just naturally there. Not able to see that they both want the same thing eventually. They are convinced that the other wants the annihilation of the other. That's all that is in the other is obsessed with. But the other is not really obsessed with the annihilation of the other. It may be a means that the other has attached itself to, thinking that that's how they will arrive at what they really want, which is peace. But what they really want is peace, not the annihilation of the other. They think of it as a means of arriving at that peace. And the striving that is mentioned here is the constant effort that is being uh, in, invested in trying to get to peace, but not being able to get there. And we will see it in our environment. We will experience the environment as fighting us. And when we experience the environment fighting us, I'm not saying that you're crazy, the environment is not fighting you. But we set the condition to experience the environment as fighting us. And because of the presence of that, we're not able to experience peace. In the same way that we can set up we set up the environment to appear to be fighting us, we can also set up the environment where it doesn't fight us. Where you can be in the middle of or you can in the middle of a war zone, but somehow the projectiles are not looking for you because you're not in conflict with them. Because you bring that sense of peace with you. I'm not talking about an actual war zone where there's things being hurled at each other and somehow those things magically miss you. I mean, that could be a way to happen too, but that's not necessarily what I'm referring to. Okay. But you can be in a place where, because you are in touch with real peace, the peace that is not constructed, which is a fake peace, because it can be deconstructed. When you touch that unconstructed peace, where you go, you are affecting the environment because the environment is not completely separate from you and you're not separate from the environment. And you affect the minds around you because that's what they are. They are affectable things. They are affectable phenomena. That's their nature. They interact, they interchange. That is their nature. That is their existence, interchanging, interacting constantly. And the interacting can sometimes be completely constructed, completely imagined, manufactured, but it's still a kind of interacting. And that is to tell you, interacting doesn't necessarily have to be some fixed way of interacting. That we can determine how we interact. How we interact will determine also the peace, the natural state of the peace. When uh, when chaos is hurled at you, instead of getting entangled and identifying with the chaos, but you stay connected to your peace, then yeah, that's chaos, but it's not your chaos. You are interacting with it. Interacting with chaos doesn't mean that you necessarily have to become chaos. That's what I meant by how we interact is also imaginary. It's also dependent on, it's not forced upon us how we interact. You can interact with chaos, not identify with it. It remains chaos, and yet you don't lose your peace because of it, of that interaction. As a matter of fact, just like sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this in meditation, in certain meditation sessions that you may have had, where it seems like your mind just can't stop running. There seems to be a chaos in your mind, but you decide not to identify with it. You're not going to take the mind and strangle it and say, stop being chaotic, but rather you're not going to identify with it. And when we do not identify with it, the chaos can still be there, but we don't become chaotic because of it, because it's in our mind. we can still somehow find peace in the very middle of this chaos. And it has to do with how we are interacting with it. And if you take that attitude into, yes, there is chaos in my mind, but don't identify with it. Don't become the chaos. In the same way, the meditative state purely, when the pure meditative state is present, we can be in the very center of it, where there is peace, there is joy, there is clarity, there's luminosity, there's focus. We can experience those things, and yet the mind in its habit energy is doing something else. We can be right in the middle of it. And take that outside of your meditation, where you enter into a world where there seems to be chaos, struggling, and it has an attractive energy to it. By attractive, it's not like it looks cute and you want to participate, but it seems to be powerful. It wants to bring you into it, and that's can be said to be because of our desire to to what do you call that, like to belong to a community. It could become from that, where some sort of sympathy, empathy that is natural to us, where we wrongly conclude the way to interact with this is somehow take on this chaos onto ourselves, so we become part of the community. We join in the chaos. We allow ourselves to be chaotic also. But if we are able to fight this urge that seems to be for our benefit, in terms of we don't want to be ostracized, we don't want to be the other here. And it's sometimes a very powerful uh, instinct to want to belong. And we hurl ourselves into the chaos, into the struggle. But we don't have to do that. There can be, just like in your mind, and those certain meditation sessions where your mind is just in chaotic, but you're able to find peace without stopping the chaos necessarily. In the same way of not identifying with what's going on in the mind, that urge to belong, that urge to be a part of a community, we don't have to fall prey to it. That it's the same thing that needs identification. It's the need to have a kind of identity. So in the same way, yes, there is chaos, there is striving, but we're not pulled into it. We're able to maintain our peace. And by doing that, we are doing them a service. By not allowing ourselves to be dragged into the chaos, we are doing them a service. That is the best service that we can do. Because in their striving, they're looking for the very thing that you now have. That's what they're looking for. That's why they're fighting. They're fighting thinking that that's how they will get to where you are, to your peace that you have. But you know better. What is peace itself? Peace is the absence of the struggle, the absence of the striving. So when we are able to enter into a space where there is conflict and we don't identify with it, we don't take it on, we are able to somehow push back that instinct that wants to be part of the community, be a part of the whatever is going on. We're able to hold it back. And what can help you to hold back is to understand that the peace you are bringing is a gift, is what they're looking for. And now, instead of you giving a gift of peace, which is what they're looking for, now you've taken on what they're trying to get rid of. Now we're all caught up in the struggle, and everyone is blind. No one is connected to peace to be able to be a light, to be able to be a source of hope for others anymore. When you experience it because of our deep connection and you bring it into a space, we are feeding those in that space. We are feeding them. We are feeding them peace because it is genuine peace. Something within them will recognize it. Something, it may be completely unconscious, or maybe some of them may have a tiny bit of conscious awareness of it, but some part of them will be able to touch that, will be able to notice it. And you will be nourishing them by staying in your peace. Peace is a gift that you give to yourself, and by giving it to yourself, you're able to give it to others also. If you are absolutely right when it comes to striving and struggle, just like truth, real truth is not afraid of being investigated. It's not afraid of being looked at. It's not a bit of being put under a microscope. If indeed what you have is truth, you shouldn't be afraid of your truth being looked at, looked into. If indeed what we want is truth, if it is pointed out, oh, there's a flaw here, you should be rejoicing. When someone is, when we allow ourselves to be open enough so that even if it's the tiniest flaw, we are allowing ourselves for that flaw to be exposed. That means we are really a lover of truth. We are really a companion of truth. But when we feel personally hurt, when a flaw is pointed out in what we are holding, what we thought was truth, then it wasn't really the truth that what we were really connected to. We were really that is attachment. We are forcing something to be something that it is not. That's what attachment does. It's forcing something to be that it is not. And if you and if and I begin with, even if no one holds on to a conclusion thinking that this is a wrong conclusion, I'm going to hold on to it. No one does that. Everyone holds on to whatever conclusion they are holding on to because they think I am right. That's why they're holding on to it. And we can begin with that. You think you're right because you want to be right. So let's begin with that. You want to be right. So you shouldn't be afraid of being right. If you're walking around, I remember that story that I told you a long time ago. My friend who was under the delusion of mushrooms was carrying this filthy trash can lid, and he thought it was the most beautiful thing on the universe until he came out of his trip. He said, "What am I doing with holding this?" Okay. So if indeed that was the most beautiful thing in the universe, when you come out of the trip, it should still be a most beautiful thing in the world. If that's what you were, if that's why you were holding it in the first place. Don't be afraid of truth. And because of that, because you're not afraid of truth, don't be afraid to have your convictions tested. Because it is truth that we want after all. It's when we cling on to our truth we are not able to hear the other side. And perhaps the other side is shouting the same thing you're shouting, but using different languages. And that is true not only where we are relating with what you might call an other, but also within our own mind. What we really want is not necessarily what we think we already have. So don't need to attach ourselves to what we have already, thinking that it will, whether it's a conviction, whether it is uh, whatever it may be, whatever sense of having that we have, we can experience. In the same way that we arrive at our conclusion because we were in search of truth and we believe we have found it. Of course, we would like to share it with others because it's giving us so much peace and happiness. There's something about the peace that we want others to experience also. And if it is really peace, if it is really the truth, when we encounter something that seems to not to be the opposite of it, then be open. Perhaps the truth is somewhere in the middle, or perhaps the truth is something completely, something entirely else. And the peace that we want, we will not get to it if we are continuously stay attached to what we have, whether it is our opinions, our conclusions, our beliefs, our capacity to ponder. If we become attached to those things, not seeing those means as simply as means to direct experience. And how do you know you have found peace? It's when you have an experience that is undeniable. You have an experience that is not afraid of being tested. In the same way, truth also. And one last very important point about how do you know when you have it? When it is not only an experience that you can say is in your mind, but also an experience that you can say you feel in your body. When your body and your mind are sort of like in perfect harmony with this experience, then that's when you can say you're very close, if not entirely having found truth, having found peace, when you can feel it in your bones, when your body is not running away from it. Remember that natural intelligence that knows what meditation is, that you listen to. It can guide you. Take this posture, take this posture. And as you are making the adjustments, you start to feel getting closer and closer to the meditative state. So that intelligence, that that almost primordial intelligence that's in the body itself, it will it will tell you loudly, you have found it. And there will be such a conviction, a physical conviction, in addition to this mental inner conviction. It will be so strong that there is no fear whatsoever. You have no fear of anyone looking into it. You have no fear whatsoever of anyone telling you this is not it. As a matter of fact, you're open to it. You become somewhat just like truth. You become a diva. You can't wait to be seen. Okay. All right. I hope in some way or another that we touch the topic. Uh, and I deliberately uh, avoided citing specific examples about what's going on right now because uh, in my own biasness, I have a particular side that I'm leaning onto. I don't want to throw it out there and give it more energy, but rather to remember that perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm wrong. And if I'm proven wrong, I should be very happy because it's not that thing itself that is important, but rather the truth itself. Okay. And that experience that I told you about, where it seems like I'm able to, okay, I want peace now in my mind. And then, whoa, look at that. There's peace. I'm happy. What is it? What is it about those moments that makes me able to have that experience? And yet in the other moments, it seems like I'm doing the same thing. Doesn't work. It's what am I identifying with at that moment, in those moments? What am I really, really identifying with in those moments? If I'm convinced I am sad, I am down, it doesn't matter how many times I say peace, 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 it's not going to work. When I'm willing to let go of identifying with the experience, then I can have a taste of peace. I think maybe that's the difference between those two experiences. Okay, now it's really time for me to shut up and open the floor for everyone to say, wait a minute, you didn't talk about what we're supposed to talk about. Tell me. Have any questions, any comments, any observations?
I had a moment for myself just early on in the meditation even. I think the instruction you gave was to feel ourselves as a nation, feel myself as part of the nation.
Mm.
And I realized that I had so much resistance to that.
Mm.
I've like I think I've spent a lot of time being in the peanut gallery, just kind of like throwing my criticisms out there, but not actually letting myself like acknowledging that I'm part of it. And it just had a very different flavor to it there. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And uh, in connection to that, the thing is, uh, in seeking to experience peace, and by peace, I'm not referring to um, avoiding what's happening, right? Experiencing peace is not avoiding what's happening, but rather relating with it in a way that you're not off-centered. You remain clear, you remain vivid, you're able to skillfully engage with what's going on, not wishing something else was going on entirely. Okay. But skillfully engage with what is going on. Uh, so holding on to that kind of intention, when you find yourself in hot debate with someone, you're completely convinced about what you're presenting, and the other person is completely convinced about what they're presenting. And it seems to be there's no way the two sides can ever meet. There's no way the two sides can ever uh, see eye to eye. But rather than focusing on the conclusions that we both drew, but rather try to connect to why. Try to connect to the why. Why am I? Why is that person? And when the person is saying, I am hurt, when anyone says that and they say that genuinely, we should listen to them. They may be entirely wrong as to why they're hurt, but that they're hurt is not something to be dismissed. They may be taking the path that you know that even they may know is not a way of really addressing the pain. But at least we should connect at that level. Yes, your pain is genuine. And that is a place where we can all connect with each other, the experience of pain. And perhaps maybe moving from there, we can find at least some other other common places of where we meet. Okay. So this was in response to what you just said, where the peanut thing, right? Where this is my conclusion, this is my idea, this is what is truth, and it's throwing it at the what seems to be the opposite of those truth, the opposite opinions, and it seems like the only way to encounter you is to knock you over, right? And when you try to feel that peace, try to feel that we are all one body, all of us together make a nation. And there is something, there is a common experience that we are seeking in when we identify as we are members of this nation. There's some common thing that we already hold dear to, that we some shared value that we already have, but we somehow something has happened, and this may not be very skillful, but at least it takes me out of the mind of conflict, the mind of needing to, like, okay, who's saying the wrong thing so I can get at them. Where your mind is constantly in that mode where you're looking for a fight. And that could be addictive sometimes, because it seems to be the right thing. Whoever is holding onto that particular idea, oh, I got something for them. Oh yeah, I'm gonna knock them down this time, right? But not for the sake, and it's no longer about why anymore. Why were we, why how did why did we arrive at where we arrived in the first place? There was something we were seeking in common, and somehow we got diverted. So the thing that I use sometimes just to get my mind out of this grasping is to say, you and I have been infected by an alien. They've infected something. They've infected me, and they've infected you, where we can't see each other anymore. And the only thing we naturally want to do is to fight each other so that the aliens can come and take over. That's something, I don't believe it. Okay, I just put it that way so it sounds, so I can see how silly it sounds, holding on tightly to my belief when someone else is holding on tightly to their belief. Okay, all right.
So, Phuntsok, you use the phrase "bring them a taste of peace," and so much what we've been talking about and feeling. we think like there's two sides, right? Like I'm on this side and on the other side. Even when we see more than two sides, it's still us, you know. So yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was very meaningful because it really does take it down to oneself and how one is going to present no matter what the conflict. And you know, if somebody has a hammer to your toe or a baseball bat to your head, you know, it's not I mean that's one thing. But again, how we present and is important. So I'm just raising. I don't know if you want to talk about it any more
Mhm.
than that. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was meaningful.
Hmm. Yeah. Somebody has a bat to your head or hammer to your toes. Uh, uh, in the training of becoming someone completely uh, completely absorbed in the state of mind of compassion, in the state of compassion, completely absorbed in the experience, in the state of love. When someone is coming at them with a bat, someone is coming at them with a hammer to their toe. They don't say, okay, it's time to put my compassion aside. It's time to put my love aside so I can deal with this. The compassion is a means to deal with it. The love is a means to deal with it. So that you in that you stop them from doing this, but you stop them in a way where they are better out of the result of the way you interact with them. They don't become worse as a result of it. Yes, you stop them, but you can't stop someone with love and compassion. In the same way, the example that is given, if your mother suddenly lost her mind, your mother that you love dearly, or your child, your baby who you love dearly, and loves you dearly, and somehow they lose their mind and they're coming at you with a weapon. You don't take your weapon and shoot them. You receive them with compassion. You subdue them with compassion until that crazy state that they got caught up in, they're able to be free of it. And because we interacted with them with love, because we receive them with compassion, we transform them. That is the medicine that helps them come out of that craziness. And and this is something, practically speaking, also, um, when someone is expressing their pain, and instead of hearing someone expressing their pain, all we hear are accusations. But rather than hearing pain, someone expressing pain, if we keep hearing it with, I'm being accused, I'm being accused, I'm being accused, then we become defensive. We don't help ourselves, nor do we help the person. We all end up being worse off from that experience. But if we just listen, even if it hurts us to hear, but connect with, this person is in pain, the person is expressing pain. Even if it's just, I don't know, they they lost their nail or something. If that is painful for them, that is painful for them. Don't make fun of them. Okay.
I think you just did.
By the way, I love your hair. My goodness.
Who are you talking to?
Talking to you.
I have hair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question that came up just at the end, actually, when you were talking about when do you know, and you, because said a few things. You have this like deep conviction and you can feel it, I guess. You're also not scared of it's the truth isn't scared of being seen, I think is something you said.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder in my mind, like there's moments where sometimes, and this, I guess the question is like, is this truth? Or there's like a distinction in my head or in my being about truth and my capacity to hold truth. And so sometimes like I can taste a truth, but I'm there to offer it because I know that it hasn't been embodied yet. So I know that it could be taken from me. Like I could still be convinced because I'm too fickle or weak or something, but it could still be a truth. Or is it that that might not be a truth because I'm scared to expose it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess is, yeah, something that came up in that when you
Mm-hmm.
were talking about that.
Yes. Okay. A couple of things I would like to say about that. Uh, One thing is under journey to this truth, and sometimes right before we get to the truth, we may experience extreme fear, and it seems like it's the truth that we're about to experience that is this terror, but it's actually just a phase. The terror is really now I'm going to let go of the lie. That's where the terror is actually coming from. And once we pass through that, because the journey is convincing that at the end is truth. And somehow we find it is called a kind of bravery, a kind of courage to go through the pain, to go through the terror. And when we get to the other side, I mean, think of it. What is behind this is terrifying, could be terrifying, but it's going to be the truth. And that's what I really want. It's like you prove in your love, so to speak. You proving that that's what you really want, that you're willing to go through this barrier, through this door of terror. And then eventually when you get to that, then the terror is completely gone. As a matter of fact, you become completely the opposite. You become extremely fearless. But you have to go through this terror first. But the terror itself is not the terror, you could say, when you are sincerely on the path to truth, the terror that you may experience could be a good sign that you're on your way. Okay. And also, the other thing that I wanted to say in regard to what you raised is as far as truth is concerned, the sutra that I mentioned, where the Buddha was talking about the stages that we go through to finally arrive at truth. And he say, how do we honor truth? And it's very, very interesting the way he says, the way he answers, how do we honor truth? He says, we honor truth when we know this is my idea. And you say, that's my idea. We are honoring truth. When you say, I have a strong belief, this is what it is. We are honoring truth. Rather than taking our belief, taking our reason, our idea, and saying, this is it. This is the truth. And there's nothing else that is truth other than this. We are not honoring truth this way. But when we acknowledge this is exactly where I am right now, all I can have is an idea. And this is and what I'm presenting you is an idea. It feels like it could be the truth, but there's no experience in my bones that tells me it is the truth. And that's what I'm presenting to you. It is my idea. That is honoring the truth, because that is an actual experience that is taking place. Okay. Oh, thank you. All right. If there are no more questions, no more comments, then we will end with a meditation, the same meditation. You all ready for meditation? Okay. Okay. All right. Sit in such a way that Sit in such a way that your body's telling you, you must be wanting to meditate. All right, let me help you. Make a little adjustment in your legs like that. Oh, very good, very good. Okay, adjust your spine like this. Oh, that's very good. Do you start to feel it already when you listen to me? Arrange your hands like this. That's just for you. Don't worry about other people, just for you. Arrange your hands like this. Very good. Make sure your head and neck are centered. There's no conscious effort in holding them in place. And begin to remember how it was like when you were meditating. How was it like in your body? How was it like in your breathing? How was it like energetically in your mind? And let the very recalling of the experience begin to give you a taste of it again. And once you feel there's a taste of the experience, now let yourself go into it with a nice deep breath, staying connected to the experience and continuously stay aware of it. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose and dive. Let yourself go. Let yourself go into that experience. Let yourself go. 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 Leave the breath alone. Let yourself go. Feel the momentum. Stay with the momentum. Stay with the momentum. Feel the momentum in the body. Feel the momentum in the breath. Feel the momentum in the mind going deeper, deeper into calm, deeper into pleasantness, deeper into some kind of relaxation in the body, in the breath, in the mind. And when there's a definite appearance of calm, pleasantness, clarity, radiance in whatever way that they make their appearances known, welcome them, rejoice. And just stay aware of the body, aware of what constitutes you, the individual, your body, biological, energetic, what we may call the energetic feel of us. If that is something that you feel, if it's not, then don't worry about it. Your emotions, your mind, whatever comes up. Doesn't have to be a specific experience that you say, oh, that's mind. Whatever comes up. They're integrated. They should be. They are all you, your individual us. When your back needs scratching, your hands go there. Your hands don't tell your back, you take care of your own scratching. And when the hands go to scratch the back, it's not, oh, I got to go take care of that. It's us. It's me. I am scratching. That's what the hands say. I am itching. And when the foot is walking, it's not saying, why is the rest of these people keep following me? Why the hands keep following me? It's all us. So feel that strong sense of us in your own little micro universe. All those cells, all those organs, they're all us. They have different functions. They do different things. They look different. It's all us. Really connect with that sense of us. And that sense of us is not a soup where the organs become cells and the cells become organs in order for there to be an us. The cells remain cells, the organs remains their different appearances, and it's still us. Go into that mystery, that beautiful mystery. Now go to that vision where we are, this us, all of us here. And you can have the perspective of someone outside pointing to us. Look at them meditating. And there's a sense of us being looked at in the same way that all the different components of our individuality was an us. Now each one is us together. And by holding on to the sense of us, it causes us to experience the presence, the appearance of a bright presence in the center of our circle. And keep feeling that sense of us. The organs look different from each other. They have different functions. We look different from each other, but we're still us. In that same sort of instinct of the hand helping the foot, begin to go into that sense of instinct of one of us helping another. And it's just us taking care of us. And to help us feel that sense of connection, see a beautiful ray of light coming from our hearts, beautiful ray of light. And they all meet together in that beautiful presence, luminous presence in our center. And it's not like we are a parasite dragging energy from us, but we are participating. We give us energy and us give us energy. And I want you to now, as you expand this presence and it in sort of swallows all of us into it, into one bright presence. And it continues to expand. There might be some difficult people that it's difficult for you to see as us. Every once in a while, try to dip them in for as long as you can muster. And as soon as you start to lose that sense of us with them, so just forget about them and then just go back to that sense of us and continue to expand. And the way you can include them perhaps is to think of them as they are struggling against us because they're really trying to get out of their suffering. They're blinded by their suffering. Just like the wounded toe is yelling at the rest of the body for attention. And the rest of the body goes to help. The entire neighborhood is now us. Think of your neighbors, put them in there. It's us. And the instinct to be of service to them. Feel it. The entire state. And again, let's stop for a second or two. The entire nation. And think of all those who you consider oppositions and just think of them as suffering beings trying in their own way to end their suffering. It's us. And include everything now: the environment, the sky, the mountains, the bodies of water, the different plants and trees, all the forms of life, us. And as you, when you make say us, really feel the instinct when you were talking about the individual us, the cells and the organs, the hands and the foot. And when you say river, feel the same way you felt for your feet, or your hair, whatever. And now say those words that are difficult for you to say, us, just for a moment. If that's all you can muster, then take them out and continue to focus and feel us in a way that's easy. Now let that expand beyond these man-made barriers. It's now the entire earth, us. And this may help, but if it becomes too abstract, go back to just the earth. Now, if you wish, expand it to include all life everywhere. Us. And perhaps that may help with the names that was difficult to include. Shrink that presence. I want you for at least 3 seconds, if there is someone or a group of people it's difficult for you to include, while you continuously feel us, bring them in and say us, bring them in, say us, bring them in, us, and let it go. And get ready and begin to see that big, bright, luminous presence, us, begin to shrink again. And as it shrinks, it leaves sort of residue of itself, of in wherever it touched and infused. And everything and everyone that is left with this residue has a sense of us, until it again becomes this bright presence in the middle of our circle. And the sense of us is very strong. The sense of readiness and instinct to be of service is a bit stronger. To listen is stronger. To empathize is stronger. And feeling the energy of this meditation, think of something that sincerely, genuinely concerns you. Something of true core value, and dedicate the meditation to address that concern. Gyawa di kyogen Sunam yeshe zozo ching Sunam yeshe lechungwe Damba kunye doba shu. Okay, now, just as before, deliberately, consciously, we made the decision to enter. We should make the conscious decision now to come out of the meditation. With that, first feel that you are in the meditative state. Notice the signs, noticing them, meet them, rejoice. And with the intention to arise, let's take a deep breath that you feel and hear in through the nose, out the mouth, and deliberately, consciously reconnect with your immediate surroundings through your sense of touch. Deliberately be aware of the temperature, the feel of the clothing on you, your seat. Deliberately be aware of the sounds, the close, the far, the distant. Be aware again of lights, colors, shapes, shadows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phuntsok.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Thank you. Thanks for that question.
Of course. And I just posted some links in the chat for anyone is able to support the class. They're recorded. They'll be up on Patreon. And there's also a Venmo link there too. It's good to see everybody.
Good to see you all. Good night to some of you, and good